In the ancient city of Oxford, England, a place where history is etched into every stone and the air hums with centuries of intellectual pursuit, a news story began on a spring day. It was May 22nd, 1980, when Susan, a dedicated teacher, and Richard Gordon, a meticulous accountant, welcomed their first child, a daughter they named Lucy. Her arrival into this world was one of quiet, middle-class stability, a life grounded in the enduring English values of education, diligence, and a certain reserved grace. Growing up in Oxford, with her younger sister Kate, Lucy's world was one of books, loving encouragement, and the gentle academic rhythm of the city itself. This was not the frantic, fashion-obsessed London of the 1980s, but a place that encouraged deep thought and intellectual curiosity. She attended the prestigious Oxford High School for Girls, an institution known for cultivating not just academic excellence, but also independent, thoughtful young women. Here, Lucy's bright, inquisitive mind flourished. She was a gifted student, but her true passions lay in the arts. She fell deeply in love with French culture, an affair that would last her entire life. It began with the language, which she mastered to fluency, but it deepened through its cinema. The films of the French New Wave, with their philosophical questions, complex characters, and artistic ambiguity, resonated with her sensitive and intelligent nature. This love for France was not a passing phase. It became a core part of her identity, an internal compass that would guide her toward her destiny. On the school's drama stage, she found her voice. Acting provided a vessel for her empathy, a way to explore the intricate machinery of human emotion, and perhaps a way to better understand the stirrings of her own complex inner world. She was a natural, possessing a quiet charisma and an ability to convey profound emotion with a simple glance. As she blossomed into a young woman in the mid-1990s, the cultural landscape of Britain was undergoing a seismic shift. The era of cool Britannia was in full swing, a wave of national optimism expressed through vibrant music, fashion, and art. For a bright, creative, and ambitious teenager like Lucy Gordon, the future must have seemed like an open road shimmering with promise. Her journey into that world, however, would not begin in a stuffy London audition room, but under the warm, forgiving sun of the French Riviera, with a chance encounter that would irrevocably alter the course of her life. The summer of 1995 was a turning point. The Gordon family was on holiday in the south of France, a classic English escape to the continent. It was there, amidst the bustling seaside towns and azure waters, that a talent scout from Select Model Management, one of London's most powerful and respected modeling agencies, saw something special in the 15-year-old Lucy. It's the kind of discovery that has launched countless fashion myths. The natural, unadorned beauty plucked from obscurity and thrust into the spotlight. Lucy's look was perfectly attuned to the aesthetics of the moment. The mid-90s fashion world was moving on from the Amazonian supermodels of the early part of the decade. A more waifish, interesting, and character-filled beauty was in vogue, championed by figures like Kate Moss. Lucy fit this new paradigm, yet she was also distinct. She was tall and slender, with elegant, sculpted cheekbones and a strong jawline that photographed beautifully. But her defining feature, the one that made her unforgettable, was her eyes. They were large, intelligent, and possessed a soulful, almost melancholy quality. They hinted at a depth and a seriousness that was rare and utterly captivating. The industry moved quickly. Signed almost immediately, Lucy began a dizzying dual existence. She was determined to complete her A-levels, the rigorous pre-university exams, so she juggled her academic life in Oxford with a burgeoning international career. One day, she was a schoolgirl studying for her history exams. The next, she was on a plane to New York for a high-stakes photo shoot. It was a surreal and demanding lifestyle, but she handled it with a maturity beyond her years. Her rise in the fashion world was not modest. It was meteoric. She quickly transcended the status of a working model to become a star. Her biggest breakthrough came when she secured a multi-year contract as one of the faces of CoverGirl Cosmetics. This was and remains one of the most lucrative and prestigious jobs in the commercial modeling world. It catapulted her image into the mainstream consciousness. Her face with those mesmerizing eyes was suddenly everywhere. On television, commercials broadcast to millions. On massive billboards towering over city squares and staring out from the glossy pages of magazines like Vogue, Glamour, and Elle. Beyond the commercial success, she also found favor in the more rarefied world of high fashion. She walked the runways for iconic designers and appeared in campaigns for luxury houses like Christian Dior. She became a familiar presence in the fashion capitals of Paris, Milan, and New York, living the frenetic, globe-trotting life of a top model. The work provided her with financial independence and a passport to a world of glamour and creativity. Yet even at the apex of this success, Lucy remained intellectually and emotionally detached from the world she inhabited. Those who worked with her noted her intelligence, her wit, and her down-to-earth nature. She was not a diva. She read books on set. She treated modeling with a clear-eyed pragmatism. In interviews, she consistently downplayed her role in the fashion machine, famously stating that she saw it as a passport, a means to travel and pay the bills while she figured out her next move. "I was always a bit of a student on a gap year," she once remarked. This perspective revealed a profound truth about her ambition. She was an observer in a world obsessed with being observed. Her heart and mind were already focused on a different kind of performance, one that required more than just a beautiful facade. The fashion industry had given her a launch pad, but it had also built a gilded cage, and she was already planning her escape. As the new millennium dawned, Lucy Gordon made the pivotal decision to commit herself fully to her true passion, acting. She understood with her characteristic intelligence that this would be her most difficult challenge yet. The model-to-actress pipeline is a notoriously difficult one to navigate successfully. The entertainment industry is deeply skeptical of models, often viewing them as beautiful but hollow, lacking the emotional depth and technical skill required for serious acting. Lucy knew she would have to work exponentially harder to overcome this prejudice and prove her dedication. She moved to New York City, the epicenter of American theater and a hub for serious acting training. She immersed herself in study, enrolling in classes with renowned coaches, breaking down scripts, and learning the foundational techniques of the craft. This was not a celebrity dabbling in a vanity project. This was a dedicated student learning her trade from the ground up. She began the grueling process of auditioning, going out for any role, no matter how small, to gain experience and build a resume. Her feature film debut came in 2001 with a small role in the movie Perfume. It was a fitting, if ironic, first step, a satirical drama set in the very New York fashion world she was so determined to move beyond. That same year, she secured another small part in the hit romantic comedy Serendipity. Her screen time was minimal, but it put her on a set with beloved actors like John Cusack and Kate Beckinsale, allowing her to observe seasoned professionals at work. She continued to patiently lay the bricks of her new career with a role in the 2002 historical epic The Four Feathers, a large-scale production starring the late Heath Ledger. With each project, she absorbed more about the craft of filmmaking. She learned about camera angles, lighting, and the subtle art of performing for the screen versus the stage. Slowly but surely, she was building a body of work. Casting directors and filmmakers began to see what the fashion world had already noticed: her unique and compelling quality on screen. It was that profound inner life that seemed to flicker just behind her eyes. In an industry filled with expressive, outgoing personalities, Lucy possessed a rare and captivating stillness. She could command a scene without saying a word, her quiet presence drawing the viewer in, making them wonder what she was thinking. Her melancholy beauty was not just an aesthetic, it was an emotional signature. The turning point that marked her arrival as a credible and respected actress came in 2005. The celebrated French director Cédric Clapiche, known for his witty, humane, and character-driven films, cast her in Les Poupées Russes, The Russian Dolls. The film was the eagerly awaited sequel to his international cult hit L'Auberge Espagnole. This was not a token role. She played Celia, a charming and intelligent English television producer who becomes a significant love interest for the film's protagonist. The part was a perfect showcase for her unique talents. It allowed her to act in both English and her flawless French, highlighting her intelligence and bridging her two cultural loves. She more than held her own in an ensemble of respected European actors, bringing a mix of wit, vulnerability, and charm to the role. The film was a resounding success, both commercially and critically, especially across Europe. It cemented Lucy's status as a serious actress. She had successfully broken free of the model stereotype. She had proven her talent, her range, and her intelligence. She was now carving a distinct path for herself as a sophisticated, thoughtful, pan-European artist, one whose career choices were guided by a passion for good material, not just the pursuit of fame. Her path seemed set, her trajectory aimed at a long and respected career in the world of independent film. Then, in a move that would rocket her into an entirely different stratosphere of fame, Hollywood made her an offer she couldn't refuse. The call came from the production team of SpiderMan III, which was poised to be one of the biggest and most expensive films ever made. Director Sam Raimi cast Lucy in the supporting role of Jennifer Dugan, an ambitious television reporter and on-air rival to Bryce Dallas Howard's character, Gwen Stacy. The leap from the intimate, dialogue-driven sets of French cinema to the gargantuan green screen-filled world of a superhero blockbuster was staggering. For Lucy, the experience was a culture shock. She spoke in interviews about the sheer, overwhelming scale of the production. On an independent film, the cast and crew often feel like a small, tight-knit family. On the set of SpiderMan III, there were hundreds of crew members, massive, intricate sets, and a budget that exceeded the gross domestic product of some small countries. It was the Hollywood machine at its most powerful. As Jennifer Dugan, Lucy was a constant presence throughout the film's New York-based storyline. She was the face of the media, reporting on Spider-Man's heroic deeds and his later darker turn. She brought a sharp, professional polish to the role, a welcome note of sophisticated calm amidst the CGI-fueled chaos. In the summer of 2007, SpiderMan III was unleashed upon the world. It was a cultural event, smashing box office records and being seen by hundreds of millions of people. As a result, Lucy Gordon's face became one of the most recognizable on the planet. She was swept up in the whirlwind of a global press tour, a marathon of red carpets, junkets, and television appearances that took her from Tokyo to London to Los Angeles. She was photographed by legions of paparazzi, interviewed by the world's media, and celebrated as one of the film's fresh new faces. From every external metric, this was the pinnacle of success. The schoolgirl from Oxford, who dreamed of being an actress, had done it. She had conquered the fashion world and then successfully transitioned to a starring role in the biggest movie franchise in the world. She had achieved a level of fame and recognition that most actors only dream of. Her future seemed assured, a clear path to A-list stardom laid out before her. But the blinding light of the global spotlight can be deceptive. It can obscure the quiet, creeping shadows. And for Lucy, those shadows were lengthening, reaching across the ocean to the private sanctuary of her Parisian home. In the aftermath of the Spider-Man phenomenon, Lucy made a brave and telling choice. Instead of capitalizing on her newfound fame to pursue more blockbuster roles, she deliberately stepped back from the Hollywood machine. The experience, while exhilarating, had seemingly reinforced her desire for a different kind of career. She was an artist, not a celebrity, and she turned her focus back to the character-driven, independent films that nourished her soul. She had made Paris her permanent home. The city was more than just a place to live. It was her spiritual and creative center. She loved its beauty, its history, its deep-seated appreciation for art and conversation. It was here, away from the relentless pressures of London and Los Angeles, that she felt she could live and work on her own terms. She found a deep and loving relationship with Jérôme Almaraz, a talented German cinematographer. They shared an apartment in the vibrant 10th arrondissement and were part of a close-knit community of fellow artists. On the surface, she had curated a life of purpose, love, and creative fulfillment. But beneath this carefully constructed life, a silent internal war was being waged. For many years, Lucy had been struggling with recurring bouts of severe depression. Those in her inner circle knew her as a person of extraordinary sensitivity. Her father's description of her as a deeply compassionate soul was apt. This profound empathy was the engine of her talent, allowing her to connect with characters and audiences on a deeply emotional level. But it was also her Achilles heel, leaving her porous and vulnerable to the world's sorrows and to the relentless whispers of her own inner critic. The life of an artist, particularly an expatriate artist, is often fraught with instability and a unique kind of loneliness. The constant travel, the transient nature of film work, and the physical distance from the deep, unconditional support of her family in England created a precarious foundation. Depression thrives in isolation, and even when surrounded by people, one can feel profoundly alone. For Lucy, this struggle was a constant presence, a chronic illness that she managed with courage and tenacity, but which never fully released its grip. The final project of her life was a role that felt like the culmination of her entire journey. It was a part that required every ounce of her talent, her intelligence, and her vulnerability. She was cast as the iconic singer and actress Jane Birkin in Gainsbourg, A Heroic Life, a surrealist and highly artistic biopic of the legendary French musician Serge Gainsbourg. To understand the weight of this role is to understand the cultural significance of Jane Birkin in France. She was the quintessential it girl of the late 60s and 70s, an English actress who, through her passionate and tumultuous relationship with Gainsbourg, became the embodiment of Parisian bohemian chic. Their love affair and artistic collaborations were the stuff of legend. Birkin was a muse, a fashion icon, a singer, and an actress, a figure of immense cultural importance. Lucy was a perfect choice for the role, not just for her physical resemblance, but for her shared English heritage and deep connection to French culture. She immersed herself in the part with a ferocious dedication. She studied hours of interviews and performances, mastering Birkin's distinctive, breathy singing voice, her slightly awkward yet utterly charming physicality, and her unique blend of wide-eyed innocence and knowing strength. The film's director, Joanne Svar, later said he chose Lucy because he saw in her an incredible fragility and charm, the very qualities that defined Birkin herself. This process of deep immersion is psychologically perilous for any actor, but for someone already in a fragile state, it can be dangerous. The lines between the self and the character can begin to blur. Lucy was pouring all of her emotional energy, all of her finite reserves into this performance. It was set to be her masterpiece, but it was exacting a terrible price. In the spring of 2009, as she was completing her work on Gainsbourg, Lucy's long battle with depression reached a crisis point. Friends and family reported that she had been left utterly devastated by the recent suicide of a friend in the United Kingdom. This tragic event seemed to act as a powerful trigger, sending her into a deep and intractable depressive spiral. The grief she felt for her friend merged with her own feelings of despair, creating a weight that became impossible for her to bear. On May 20th, 2009, in the Parisian apartment that should have been her safe haven, this brilliant, sensitive, and beloved young woman took her own life. Her partner, Jerome Almaras, made the devastating discovery. The news sent a shock wave of grief and disbelief through her family, her friends, and the international film community. The timing was marked by a particularly cruel irony. As her death was being discovered in Paris, early scenes from Gainsbourg were being screened at the Cannes Film Festival to an ecstatic reception from critics and industry insiders. She was being celebrated for her greatest triumph at the very moment her life was ending. She was just 2 days away from her 29th birthday. The aftermath was a maelstrom of sorrow and speculation. The tabloid press, in its relentless search for a simple dramatic narrative, hinted at professional troubles or a lover's quarrel. But her family, with immense courage and a fierce desire to protect their daughter's memory with the truth, quickly stepped forward. Her father, Richard Gordon, spoke with quiet, heartbreaking dignity to the press, dispelling the rumors. "There is no question of a single cause," he stated firmly. "Lucy was a loving, kind, and gentle person. She has succumbed to an illness." He made it clear that her death was the tragic outcome of a long and painful battle with depression, a disease she had fought with immense bravery for years. When Gainsbourg, A Heroic Life, was finally released in 2010, its premiere was both a celebration and a memorial. Lucy's performance was, as the early buzz had promised, a tour de force. She was luminous, funny, heartbreaking, and utterly captivating. She didn't just imitate Jane Birkin, she channeled her very essence. The critical acclaim was universal and overwhelming. In France, she was posthumously nominated for a César Award, the French equivalent of an Oscar for Most Promising Actress. It was the ultimate validation of her artistry, the recognition she had so diligently worked for, but which she would never live to receive. Watching the film today is a uniquely poignant and bittersweet experience. It is to witness an artist at the absolute peak of her powers, creating something timeless and beautiful, all while knowing the immense personal pain she was enduring. Her final brilliant performance ensured that she would be remembered not as the pretty model or the girl from Spider-Man, but as a formidable and deeply sensitive artist in her own right. The legacy that Lucy Gordon leaves behind is complex and profound. There is, of course, the tangible legacy of her work, her performances preserved forever on film. They reveal a talent that was still evolving, an actress of rare intelligence and emotional depth who was just beginning to show the world the full range of her capabilities. Her final breathtaking performance in Gainsbourg stands as her definitive artistic statement, a testament to a potential that was tragically unfulfilled. But her story also carries a deeper, more urgent legacy. It serves as a powerful and heartbreaking testament to the devastating reality of mental illness. Her life challenges the dangerous myth that external success, beauty, fame, wealth, and love can act as a shield against internal despair. Her story forces us to confront the pervasive stigma that still surrounds depression, a stigma that often prevents people from seeking or receiving the help they desperately need. She became an unwitting symbol of the silent struggles that can lie hidden behind even the most radiant public smile. Lucy Gordon's journey began in the studious calm of Oxford and soared to the dizzying heights of global celebrity before ending far too soon in the city of art she had made her home. Those who knew and loved her remember her not for the sadness that ultimately consumed her, but for the brilliant light she cast during her life. Her fierce intelligence, her wicked sense of humor, her profound kindness, and her immense, undeniable talent. Her life was a beautiful, complicated, and tragically unfinished symphony. To remember her is not just to mourn the loss, but to learn from it, to look more closely, to listen more carefully, and to lead with the kind of compassion that this gentle soul so readily gave to the world. That's a wrap for today's video. If you enjoyed it, smash that like button, drop us a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss our new content. Thanks for watching.